Hello and welcome to Tyrene's Tales. I'm Tyrene Martinson, and this is my segment of my channel in which I read short stories and then discuss them. So these are all short stories that I've written, and so that's why I can kind of tell you a little bit of what went into the story behind the scenes. So today I'm going to read Wishes, which is a short story from 25 Impossible Tales of Survivors, Flawed Heroes, and Annoyed Villains, which is available at online bookstores if you'd like to get your own copy. So, Wishes. Greeted by Derby's blonde flagging tail and happy bark, I flop into an armchair in Deidre's book room and wait for her. Derby pushes the cushioned stool over so he can get closer to me, and I sink my cold fingers into his curly fur. With my limited powers, I can sense worry from Derby, but I don't know why he's worried. He warms to my inner presence like he always does, but this time he's seeking comfort. Deidre enters, her hair falling softly around her face, her gorgeous figure nearly swamped by a huge gray sweater. She carries 2 mugs of steaming coffee, and I take one. My fingers warm on the ceramic cup, and I smile softly. "What's up, Dee?" She sits on the edge of her armchair, puts the cup down on the side table, and gazes down at the floor. I can tell she's unhappy. But as a straight male friend to a gorgeous, unavailable woman, I keep to my own chair. Wait for her to say something. Try not to pry. I am trying so hard, hiding my own baggage. I'm focusing on my own reactions instead of her. Sensing her discomfort, Derby goes over to her and sticks his nose into her hands. She pets him absent-mindedly, and his tail stops wagging. A tear trickles down her cheek, and I can't help but notice. Deidre! My cup clatters against the table. There is something dark around her, dragging her down. My abilities are just enough to cause me problems, not actually solve anything. I need you to take Derby. What? I have stage 4 cancer. Michael left me yesterday when he found out, and my sister doesn't like dogs or books. Can you take them, Derby, and all of the books? She digs her fingers into Derby's fur and hugs him close to her. I forget everything about maintaining my distance, leap from my chair and crouch down by her, hugging her shoulders. Isn't there a treatment? Haven't they found something with all the research and the funding drives? They give me 6 months, she sobs into Derby's fur, and I cry into her hair. Michael's an ass. The words are out before I can stop them. She laughs. Her arms wind around me and she buries her face in my chest. The warmth runs through my body, and I hold her close for a moment and then let her go. I'm always letting go. She can't know what I really am. No one can. Thanks, Q. She grabs my hands. I knew I could count on you. I try to smile, but tears run down my cheeks. I wish. I know, she says, and she brushes the tears off my stubbly cheeks. Her trembling hands feel like butterfly kisses on my skin. I close my eyes, wishing again. Derby pushes his nose into my chest, sticks his front paws on my legs, and suddenly Deidre and I are laughing together. We break apart slightly, but I hold Deidre's hand. She holds mine back. I think our coffee's gone cold. Do you want to grab mochas at Joey's instead? Joey's Mug of Beans is our old favorite haunt, and they allow dogs to sit in their furry friends section. Sure, she says. Let me grab Derby's leash. Derby leaps to his feet and runs to the door. I think he's ready. He's always so full of life, and I love that. I wish. I know, I say to her, and I add my wish to hers. That makes 4 wishes in less than an hour, and I feel a thrum in my bones. Will my meager powers be enough to heal her? My great-grandmother's powers flicker within me erratically. With Deidre's hand in mine, I dig deep into the flicker, feeling it burn inside me with unspoken need. It might burn me through, or it might be enough. My tiny bit of magic must be good for something, other than the tiny wings that lay trapped against my back. I feel Deidre's hand grow warm, see a small glow wash over her, and I smile, even as exhaustion seeps into me, bone deep. Let's fill our mugs with chocolate wishes and hope. She kisses my cheek, and my bones warm again. Could it be that power given can return? And that's the end, which is a really short story. It's something I wrote years ago when I was thinking about how wishes can be like prayers in some ways, and how miracles do actually happen occasionally. And prayers are always answered. I know people could argue with me, but I believe prayers are always actually answered. Maybe not the way we want them to be. And I know sometimes I prayed for things and definitely not had the answer I wanted. I know that people I have loved have passed away, and I prayed for their healing, and that can be devastating. It sometimes is something that has turned people away from faith when they pray prayers for healing and they lose their loved ones. But I believe that God still answers those prayers, but does it in a different way. I believe the people that we pray for to be healed are healed, but they're healed in heaven, and they are having a joyous life with God there. So it's a different kind of healing. It's a soul healing. And occasionally miracles occur that we can see in front of us. I know my mother-in-law, when she was diagnosed with lymphoma years ago, she was told it was a type of lymphoma that was uncurable. And they thought at most she had maybe a year to live. And it was a devastating thing to hear. And life went on, and she did a lot of things. She tried to take all of her kids and even her, I was even her daughter-in-law at the time, out to see Broadway shows, and she really wanted to lavish a lot of love on her family. And somewhere in there, she got really sick, and she went to the hospital. And it was actually interesting because at the time that happened, it was a couple years, maybe 3 or 4 years after that diagnosis. So she lived longer than they had said they would. She was really sick that night, and we all gathered around her at the hospital, and we were praying, and we didn't know she would survive the night, but she did. And the next morning, the doctors realized they could do an operation on something that was going on in her body. And then they realized the type of lymphoma she had was actually not the incurable kind or the untreatable kind, that they could actually treat it. And she went through the treatment, and it was hard. And she went into remission. And she's kind of an amazing woman. She really is. She's had cancer. She's had 4 different types of cancer, and she's 90 now. And she is physically a lot stronger than you would think she might be. She's pretty frail, but she is in a lot of ways a living, walking miracle. And she's kind of amazing. And you could argue, you could say, oh, that was, the medical stuff, they took care of it. But I remember that night, and when we did not know that she would make it through. And I remember the difference between the doctors saying, oh, this is untreatable, and then the next day saying, oh, well, maybe it's treatable, and being really excited about it. And it was, to me, that's a miracle. And I don't know why we were granted more time with her, but we were, and I'm thankful for that. So Again, I believe God answers all of our prayers, whether they are right here and right now or in heaven later in eternity, where I believe we're all healed and we are all free from all the stuff that we've got in this life. So, all of that was stuff that I thought about when I wrote this short story, even though in the short story it's an urban fantasy short story and they're wishes and not prayers. And I end the story in a place where you really don't know if Deidre's been healed or if Q has actually taken the illness into himself or not. And I thought about writing more, but I loved actually leaving the question there. I don't know why, but I did at the time I wrote the story. So I love that story, even though it may not feel complete to everybody. I like it exactly where it is. I like being able to imagine the possibilities and to do so in a hopeful way. I hope that I ended it in a hopeful way. That's what I meant to do. And so tell me in the comments if you think I did. If you like the story, please click like. If you're interested in content like this, please click subscribe. And if you want to read more short stories, some of which are definitely a little bit longer and more involved, you can check out 25 Impossible Tales of Survivors, Flawed Heroes, and Annoyed Villains. So thank you for joining me, and I will bring you another short story soon.